welcome to this meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission. Just a few words before we get started. This is a meeting of the Council held in public. It is not a public meeting. There is no fire drill planned, but if the fire alarm sounds, then please leave by the exit nearest the large screen at the front of the room and proceed down the fire exit to the courtyard. Once it is safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will also advise when it's safe to return to the meeting. We're recording this meeting this evening using our webcasting system. The webcast will be transmitted live and will also be available on the Council's website following the meeting. All mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so that the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. This is obviously something of a sombre meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission. Officers and members will be aware of the sad passing of the chairman of this committee, Councillor David Harrison, last week. David was a terrific servant to the Basden Borough and in particular to Wickford for nearly 50 years. I understand that he was first elected to this authority in 1976, which, to put that into context, that was 2 years before I was born, so it gives you some idea of the scale of his service. David was a tenacious and hard-working chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission, evidenced by his determination to chair what would be his final meeting a few weeks ago. He always sought to engage constructively with political allies and opponents alike. And it's worth noting, I think, that the area committees, which we will be discussing tonight, were his brainchild, and that he previously served this borough with distinction as its mayor and as well as in other senior roles. On behalf of this committee, and indeed the whole council, I would like to extend my deepest sympathies to Linda, David's wife, as well as the rest of David's family at this difficult time. And I would now ask you all please to join me in a minute's silence in memory of Councillor David Harrison. Thank you, members. Okay then, so to begin, number one, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies? No. No. Okay, thank you. Number two, declarations of interest. I'll take that as there are none. Number three, the minutes of the previous meeting, which can be found on pages 7 through 14. Can I have confirmation from those of you who are present at the meeting that you accept these minutes as a true and accurate record? Thank you. Okay, just to make members aware, I'm changing around some of the order of the items on the agenda tonight. So we will take the regeneration plans, item 4, first of all. Then we will take item 8, which is the establishment of the task and finish groups, and then we will take item 6, which is the bid update, and then we will go to the review of the area committees, safeguarding and the work programme. So hopefully that's clear, but that's the order that we're going to be taking things in. So without further ado then, on to item 4, regeneration plans, with the Leader of the Council to provide us an update on regeneration plans for the borough.
Thank you, Chairman, and can I, on behalf of the administration, join with you in sending our condolences to the Harrison family and paying our respects to David Harrison. One of the last conversations I had with David about 10 days ago was him nagging me to come to this meeting, and I agreed on the proviso I could go first because Sunderland are playing at 8 o'clock, and given he was a big football fan, he was very keen that I was able to get back in time to watch that. So I thank him wherever he is for putting me up first. Before Christmas, I came to the Overview Scrutiny Committee to talk about regeneration. I committed to coming back again in the municipal year to give you an update on where we are with the various different schemes. And so I have a presentation to take you through this evening. And as I'm sure you can see, there is lots going on at the moment. So if we're able to display that presentation, we have 5 towns across the borough, and at the moment we have active regeneration projects either about to get started, either in planning or currently being built out in 4 out of those 5 towns. So that is a huge undertaking from the council, from our officers, from our partners in terms of where we are going. I'm happy, Chair, to go through. If you want to stop me after each town for questions, I'm happy to do it however you want. But if we kick off with Billericay and Wickford, Councillor Powell will talk in a moment in her item about the business improvement districts, but I touched on this last time. We've managed to get Billericay and Wickford up and running with their bids, so we've had those successful ballots in since we were last meeting together, and those bids are starting to work through their work programmes. Again, Councillor Power can allude to some of that a little bit later on. We have had some funding through UK SPF, the UK Share Prosperity Fund, to help with things like Wickford in Bloom. I think the guys in Wickford have actually been part of national competitions around this as well, and they've been taking some of that forward. But the main regeneration projects that my portfolio is involved in centre around 2 key sites. The first is the old co-op site in the town centre. We as a council have a big interest in that because the car park is our land, it's our car park, but clearly the co-op site is a critical site. The public have made it abundantly clear in all correspondence and consultations I've had with them that they want a new supermarket in the town, and that is their preferred option. So we've been working very closely with Heriot, who are the landowners there, who purchased the site back in 2020. And I'm very pleased to say that at the end of February, we received their planning application into the council. So some of the CGIs are available. They've done the rounds in the media and on social media that people have seen. They've agreed heads of terms with a national chain, which I think, again, people may split a little bit of opinion in Wickford over the national chain, but I think the heads of terms are in a good place there. Clearly for us, we will have a say in this because our car park is the entrance and exit to that new scheme. But it also comes with some flats above it. I think we would all like there to be fewer flats in Wickford. I've said at this committee before, Wickford's had a pretty raw deal when it comes to the amount of flats that have gone up in the town over the last 15 years or so. But again, the nature of the beast, when you're talking to some people, I held a Meet the Leader event in Wickford a couple of weeks ago, and people were of the view that if it meant they got a supermarket, it was a price worth paying in order to get that part of town regenerated. It is a pretty ugly site. Councillor Power and I were actually down there a couple of weeks ago looking at the site. Subject to that planning committee, they better move quickly with demolishing that building because it does look pretty unsightly at the moment. But if the planning committee is minded to support that application, then they can get going on that site pretty quickly. The second area that we're involved in is the Wickford Police Station site. This was a Sempra scheme that we purchased back in 2019. We've made it clear as an administration, our view is that we need to repurpose that building, get it back into life. It has done nothing for 6 years. It's sat derelict since we purchased it. It was actually idle before that as well when the police moved out of there. And our plan for that is to create a community safety hub. We would be looking at a bit of co-location with potentially, it may be the Wickford Business Improvement District. The Town Council obviously are not a million miles off there as well. It could be a place for those guys to come and do their business. But it can also be a place for our ASB teams, our community safety officers, to potentially be working out in the community as well. I think also with that site, we're really keen that it maintains its kind of place on the edge of London Road as a good entranceway into the town, linking the residential and the town centre as well. So we are looking to move on with that pretty quickly. We've asked for an options paper for that to come to Cabinet, so that will be happening fairly soon. And we are exploring whether or not there is a community project. We have the Wickford Wombles, we have some other community groups up there that may want to get involved in helping us to shape what that looks like, what the functionality of the building is, but we're committed to getting that back up and running as quickly as possible in Wickford. I think those two sites are going to occupy the majority of our time and our effort on Wickford over the next 12 months. I don't know if anyone has any questions on Wickford, Chair. I'm happy to answer them if they do. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Are there any questions on Billericay or Wickford at this stage? No. Okay, I think what we'll do, if you go through and then we'll take questions at the end.
Cool. So the next one is Pitsea. So members will be aware of the Community Diagnostic Centre, which is coming to Pitsea. As I said previously, it wasn't funded before. It is now fully funded, and it will be. Well, the demolition started early in 2025, and the aim, so the NHS has approved their contractor to go on site and begin the build out of the CDC, and the aim is for that to be open in the autumn of 2026. So this should be up and running fairly quickly. We are doing some urban greening. We're doing this in multiple towns at the moment, but we are doing some greening in the area around it. I know from conversations with the Pitsea South East councillors, there are some conversations going on with the market at the moment about the transition period while this is being built, and some ironing out issues going on in Pitsea South East at the moment. Councillor Palmer will be aware of them, but this is progressing at pace and is going well. So we are continuing to support. The activity centre moved out to the Wat Tyler Park. Obviously, we will be going back into the site in terms of the provision that the council has and that we will be providing the community in Pitsea when that is fully open alongside the library in 2026. Moving on to Langdon, and I would just say on some of these, it's great that the reason there's not too many updates is because nothing's going wrong, which is just as good in terms of updates on regeneration. So in terms of Langdon, again, I had a message just today from a member of the public saying it's all stalled, nothing's happening. Clearly, that's not the case. The first part of this was always going to be about the improvements to the roadways. So there are contractors on the roadways now. There's some pipe work and plumbing and all the rest of it that's going on leading up onto the site. The build out of the residential in Langdon that will begin in the second half of 2025, around September 2025. The construction will begin again on those residentials, and then the Lidl, which is on the left hand side as you look at it, the construction of that will begin in June 2025 as well, aiming to open there in the spring of 2026. So again, these are pretty straightforward in terms of getting these up and getting them operational. So in terms of that build out, that is good. We don't yet know. Obviously, Swan were originally going to go in there as the tenant of the main office block when they were behind the scheme. As things stand at the moment, I'm not sure any heads of terms have been agreed yet on who the new tenants of that office block are going to be. But as we know more on that, we will obviously update people as and when. The Langdon Library Public Realm, that was actually done ahead of schedule. So I reported that the last time I was here. That was done back in early autumn of last year, and that was completed and is looking very good. And again, part of the urban greening work that we're doing has extended into Langdon as well. So Langdon is going well. My hope is that by 2026, residents will have somewhere to actually go and shop and be able to use that site. And certainly in the next few months, they are going to see contractors back on the main site in Langdon, and they'll be getting the building work completed. The final update is Basildon. Again, lots going on in Basildon. It is the largest regeneration programme in the borough at the moment. We are out at the moment to consult on, or it may have closed, I can't remember, on the master plan for the town centre. Is it still going?
Still going.
Still going, yeah. Okay, so you can still get, residents can still get their comments in on the town centre master plan at the moment. As I mentioned the last time I was here, for us, what was critical was around land assembly, and certainly at the west end of the town, by taking control of the West Gate, that has given the council a much greater role in deciding and determining what is actually going to happen here in the town centre. The first phase of that will be coming to planning next month as well, so we'll be moving ahead with the first phase of the Westgate shopping centre as was. We are, I think it's very well documented, there'll be a mix of residential, retail and hotel in that first phase that we're bringing forward for the Westgate, and then in the second half of the year we're working towards the next planning application where we'll be putting the multi-purpose event space in the town centre as well as part of this regeneration. The conversation really now is moving more towards how the council is engaging in things like investment partnerships, joint ventures, where we're going to finance the development, how we're going to build this out, and there is, there is huge amounts of interest in Basildon Town Centre. The private sector are willing to put their money on the table. I think I said it the last time I was here. We have a £160 million investment from Starlight Pension Fund to build out just one of our schemes. If you start adding up how much all of the other schemes will start to be, it is a considerable investment that the private sector is making in Basildon, and that genuinely is because they see the opportunity here for this town centre to be revived and get back into a state that is actually delivering for people. The Orwell scheme, which is opposite the Wilkinsons, which has been boarded up in the last few months, the demolition of that has begun. So most of the inside of that has now been demolished. Greggs will be moving out in the next couple of weeks into the old Ministry of Hair. So they will be going in there. That will then give full vacant possession of that block, and then we'll be able to demolish all of that. And then, as I say, we have the capital, or they have the capital on the table from the pension fund to enable them to get on site and begin the build out of that. So I'm hopeful that residents will see by the end of 2025, early 2026, they will start to see that scheme being built out in the town centre as well. Again, we've been pushing behind the scenes. Obviously, you will appreciate, Chair, we can't necessarily update everybody at this stage, but we have been very keen to understand where the heads of terms are on some of the retail, so that we can start getting the names of some of the retailers that will be coming into our town centre known as well, because I am acutely aware, if you live in Basildon, you might not necessarily care that there are going to be houses in the town or that there's going to be a hotel in the town because you already live here. What you want to know is what is actually going to be available for you to do and for you to make use of. And so that retail strategy is critically important, and we will hope to be able to make more announcements on that as we go. Elsewhere in the town, we know Chapelgate is progressing at lightning speed over opposite the BP garage, so I think we are on course to potentially even finish that one early. The topping out of that is taking place tomorrow, so those it's been a fantastic scheme, that great development. I think anybody who takes the train and goes past it on a daily basis has seen the evolution of that site over the last 6 months coming out of the ground. But we've also got Also got a construction academy over there on that site as well. So we've got apprentices, and we've got the next generation of Basil and Bricky, Chippies and Sparkies over there learning on site every single day as part of that. So the Hill group who are delivering that have been working with our local workforce to try and upskill people and get them involved. So that's been a really, really good site. You know, I like driving down the Never Main and seeing a crane in the sky every day, I can't lie. I think it's a sign that things are happening, which is good. And then the other thing, which I think is a huge positive, is that the Eastgate is the Eastgate. I know there's a lot of issues at the moment around antisocial behaviour and community safety, which we are working with them to deal with through the PSPO and other measures. But when you start looking at the numbers in terms of what's happening at the Eastgate right now, it's actually going from strength to strength. We've got some big high street retailers coming back. The likes of Waterstones are opening up in the Eastgate in the next couple of weeks as well. But we've also got the health centre going into the ground floor and the first floor, and we're going to have some kind of family space. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it is yet, but it's going to be a well-known use on the top floor of the Debenhams, which many people will recognise when they see it, which will be great for kids and for families. And what this will do is it will enable the Eastgate Shopping Centre to stay open longer as well, because people will be using the hospital throughout the day. It will be a 24/7 facility. And between 60 and 80% of the work that's going to be conducted at that hospital is NHS work. So this is about helping to reduce the COVID backlog as well, and to try and get more people through the operations. But clearly, if they're down here, they're spending money in our town centre, and they're helping to support our local businesses as well. So that's a huge positive. The funding is in for that. The work, I think, has started on that this month, and it is aiming to begin opening in the autumn of this year. Obviously, it is a big thing to get a hospital operational and open, but they are on site doing work on that at the moment, which is good. And then we are also on course to open the Wetherspoons at the end of the year as well. So that whole area opposite the cinema will be active. We are working very, very hard at the moment to ensure that the vacant retail units in the cinema building, which is obviously critical for us in terms of income, that they are filled as quickly as possible as well. There's lots of public realm projects going on, so residents will have seen the urban greening again, but also the lighting and the wayfinding as well that has been going into the town centre in recent weeks and months. We've had a number of sessions. If we go on to the next slide, we'll be able to see we've had a number of sessions around bringing together an advisory board. So I think you actually asked me, Chair, at one of the first meetings about how we're going to keep this sustainable beyond any one administration. And I committed then that one of the things that I was open to doing is creating this advisory board, which consists of stakeholders in the town centre, businesses that are active in the town centre, but also the investment community, also the private sector who need to have skin in the game for the next 10, 15 years to build this out. So we've managed to bring through this new futures brand that we created back in October, bring them together on this advisory board. Now they've been very, very helpful at providing advice to us about what's worked in different parts of the country and where we need to be giving greater consideration to how we take this forward. I think there is a reality that we as a council are perhaps getting to a point now where we are going to need some additional expertise and support to get this over the line. When you're looking at the kind of figures and the number of projects in this town centre alone that we're talking about, you're up towards the £500 million mark just on the ones that we're seeing at the moment. So it is a substantial piece of work. We've got to get the retail strategy right. We've got to get the heads of terms and the lease deals right with those retailers. So again, those discussions are happening, but the advisory board has been very helpful at the moment in giving us that guidance that we need, and those event spaces that we've used for consultations. Again, we've had lots of people dropping in over the course of the last few months. My expectation is that this building is demolished in the next 6 months as we move forward with the first phase of the Westgate development, but it has been a useful exercise over the last 6 months and using that space since we purchased the Westgate in good order. The final slide just gives you an update on the last two things that we've done. So we're linking regeneration, we're linking economic development, we're linking jobs and skills. We've also been pretty keen to link community safety as well. In fact, I think we can go on to the next one, Michael. We are also making sure that we're linking community safety. So we at Cabinet, we approved the launch of a community safety study across the town centre. They've been very good at giving us recommendations as part of designing out crime, as part of making sure that the regeneration is cognizant of issues around crime, law and order, etc., which has been very useful. And that will be coming back to Cabinet for us to consider their findings as well in the coming weeks. The ambulance hub, God willing it sometimes ever happens, it's been going on for years, but the plan is to put that ambulance hub up the top of the Nether Main, closer to the hospital, closer to the A13, get them out of the town centre. Again, that will help those guys, it will give them a state-of-the-art development, and as we've seen, that we've had a pre-app come through. It is a pretty impressive site, pretty impressive building, and then we're expecting the full planning application to come in and for us to be able to get on with working with the NHS and the ambulance service to get that built, get them out of the town centre, which will be good for them. And then we're also planting loads of trees because I've still got to find 1 million to tick that box. So we are planting 170 more. There you go. So look, that's a very quick overview of the regeneration projects at the moment. I'm happy to answer any questions that members might have.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chair. On the Pitsea Community Diagnostic Centre, can I have some clarity on why the library is still standing? There's lots of rumours going around in Pitsea that there are birds nesting or there's badgers in the area, which is why the library is still standing. So could we have some clarity on that, please? Thank you.
As part of the planning consent, so the planning application and the planning process, obviously we have to do a full ecology survey looking at fauna and flora, and there were no badgers found, and there was considerations around a bat survey that needed to be done, and no bats were found. So it must be just part of the demolition of the building, and it's obviously been left to the last. So no, there's nothing at the moment that we've been told about that's constraining that being demolished.
Any further questions from members? Okay, just a couple from me. Just wanted to ask, you mentioned about the tenancy that obviously Swan were going to take up in Langdon, and are there any sort of are there any interested parties? Are there any negotiations ongoing, or is it quiet at the moment?
So the Sanctuary, who obviously own the site, are having conversations with a number of people at the moment. We are very interested, obviously, in what they are discussing, because that will have an impact on any office space that we are looking at in Basildon Town Centre. The other side of it is looking at whether or not there may be a case. I'm not entirely sure that it will be possible because of the constraints that they're under in terms of how much they can spend on rental space. But there was also an initial early conversation about whether or not that could be the new health centre site, and they move out of the existing building into that one. But as I say, they are under some pretty strict constraints over how much they can spend on rent at the moment, the NHS. So that might prove impossible. It might also mean there might have to be a Section 73 on some of the changes to the building if that was to happen. So that was the last conversation that we had with them. But as I said, on all of the vacant units and the retail strategy, as soon as we have any indication on completed heads of terms and people actually signed on the dotted line, we'll be happy to report back on where we are.
Okay, just on the, and I appreciate it's part of the future phase, so I know you're not going to be able to give me masses of detail, but you're talking about the multi-purpose event space, the arena. In other words, is there an intention to look for an anchor tenant for that? I think to myself of something like, I mean, I know that in the Riverside Centre in Chelmsford, the ice hockey team is doing tremendously well. Proportionally about, I mean, they sell out now for the home fixtures. About 3,000 people go and watch that. And in my limited experience of this, generally, you know, a facility like that, if it's got an anchor tenant, it generally finds it easier to pull in crowds for other events. So is that the intention of the administration, or have we not considered that at this stage?
So I would love an ice hockey team in Basildon. I think that might send a few people into meltdown, literally, if I said that. But where we are at the moment is obviously we're doing the analysis, the soft market test at the moment. Officers have been to see a couple of sites that are things that we're trying to replicate that are happening in other towns and cities across the country. We are probably at this stage, the conversations are around an operator as opposed to an anchor tenant. And some of those are in early discussions, but clearly that would be a procurement exercise that we would have to go through, subject to planning, etc., to find an operator. What I can say is there is no shortage of interest. There is a very real recognition that where we are on the kind of A13 corridor, but equally the lack of a space like this anywhere else in Essex of the kind of multi-purpose event space that we're talking about, this would be something that, you know, a lot of people would be interested in and attracted to. In the very first, I'm trying to recall the very first conversations I had with consultants on this, they did say that the cost of an ice rink is astronomical. So that might end up being where it falls down, but it's certainly not. We haven't looked and we haven't got an anchor tenant yet. We are more in the operator space at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further questions for the Leader of the Council? No? Okay. In that case, thank you very much. And we will move on then to item 8, establishment of the task and finish groups. Now, my understanding is that this is in your agenda supplement, and we are not proceeding forward with recommendation number 3. So it is just recommendation number 1 and number 2 that we're considering. Did Councillor Callaghan, did you want to say anything on this?
Chair, just to reiterate, recommendation number 3 can be deleted. I think Leader of the Opposition has been at appeals and appointments meetings alongside the Deputy Leader of the Opposition. I think it was felt, certainly by some members, myself included, that it would be beneficial to kind of have a look now at where we are with hybrid working 5 years on from COVID, and then also where we are in terms of looking at the wider policies and processes to make sure that in this new world that we're all operating in, that they are all fit for purpose. The LGA have offered to give us some support as well. We did a comms review back in the summer, which was very useful for our officers and for members, and we thought it might be a good opportunity to do that, but we're keen that this commission has oversight and is able to scrutinise whatever the LGA and any of the cabinet decisions subsequent may or not be in terms of pre-scrutiny and also post-decision scrutiny as well. So the purpose really was to just get the consent for this work to start, really.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any comments or questions on this item? Okay, does that need to go to the vote, or is it? Yeah. Okay, in that case, if I can take a vote on, I'll take items 1 and 2 together. All those in favour, please indicate. It's unanimous. Thank you, Councillor. Enjoy the football. Okay, let's see if I can keep track of where we are. Item 6 we are moving on to now, which is the Billericay and Wickford Business Improvement Districts, and I believe this is Councillor Power.
Thank you, Chair. Just to note, this was a request from the late Councillor David Harrison. I was hoping to have a bit more information to be able to update you and the report to be a bit more robust, but the bid groups are actually meeting this week to decide their delivery plans, as luck would have it. So hopefully we'd be able to bring back further updates. But this report does give a sort of overview of where we are so far. As of the 1st of January, both bids are up and running. They are now set up as private limited companies. And as I just stated, both the bid managers have just recently been appointed and obviously been sorting out all of their materials and their access to do their jobs. So yes, they are meeting this week to obviously look at their delivery plans for the next year and their business plans. But the report does highlight some of the key points they have on their initiatives, such as community events and improving diversity in Billericay. And there's a massive focus on security and safety in Wickford at the moment as well. It is important to highlight from this point that the council's relationship in the bids is governed by the operational agreement, and we are now only there to support as a point of contact and to obviously sort of share, you know, key information with them. And we are supporting in the levy collection. I got an update on the levy collection of the first round of the levy collection last week. So we're sitting at around 67% collected for Wickford and around 64% for Billericay. So that is an ongoing process. And all the figures of what we're collecting does sit within there. That gives an annual overview of the report, but obviously that can change on the market changing and tenants moving in and out of the high streets as well. So yeah, just a bit of a light overview at the moment, but I do hope to be able to invite maybe the managers back at a later date to go through their delivery plans for the whole year.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any comments, questions on this item? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you've said what you've said, because to be honest, I was going to make that point myself. This is quite a sort of a light report in terms of actual content. Just out of sort of looking at it overall, the bang thing. Where did that come from? What's involved? Who came up with that? Was that the bid themselves, or was that something that was sort of developed as part of the process of the bid going to the ballot?
I believe that would be from the working group. So there's been established working groups over the last year or two that sort of develops this as they go along with their key initiatives. So it would have been something they would have developed between the businesses that have been part of that and the consultants that helped with obviously rallying up the businesses to join as part of the bid as well. So it would have been something that's solely owned by the businesses in the area that they chose to go ahead with the key initiatives. We have just been there as a supporting body to help get the consultants in to get the bid through to the ballot and through to this stage.
So just to say then, obviously they've got an introduction day planned, which is good. It does feel very much like they're still in the process of sort of organising themselves and getting things up and running. You've mentioned that you're going to ask the managers to come back. So I know you're saying that we don't have any sort of operational control over them, but presumably, based on what you're saying, there will still be oversight from the Overview and Scrutiny Commission going forward. Is that accurate?
I mean, as they are independent companies, I mean, all we would then look at is that they could come back and they could present to us their performance to date. So in terms of the scrutiny, it would be around just basically almost like a show and tell from our perspective, because basically it's not a council-run service, so our scrutiny powers would be quite restricted. So whether it would come here or one of the different scrutiny, I think we'd have to talk to the monitoring officer about that. But our scrutiny would be quite restricted owing to the fact that they are separate separate companies.
Yeah, I understand that. I want to make sure. I mean, they are at the end of the day collecting money from, you know, our retailers. So I just want to be sure that we've got some overview on it. I appreciate that. You know, they are independent and they will be able to spend the money as they see fit. But as long as we've got the opportunity to speak to them going forward, I think that's quite sensible. Thank you. Councillor Baggett.
Yeah, I'm just curious with the how robust the process was for choosing the chairman of the bids. The reason I ask that is because, of course, we always have to be careful with arm's length organisations to make sure that it can't be perceived that we've got some sort of undue influence on them. Yeah, we have a councillor that is the chair of the Wickford bid, and that just seems a little bit bizarre, really. So I'm just curious how we went about actually and how robust the process was to actually select the chairman in the first place.
I mean, sorry, I wasn't party. All I can say is that in terms of the the work that was put in place to set up the bids has been worked with the commercial groups that sit in Berwick and Wickford, and people put themselves forward for those positions, and then there was an agreement of who took those through those businesses voting for those people to become chair. So from the council's point of view, it was not a political appointment. From the council's point of view, it was based on the commercial businesses within those two bid areas choosing the chair they wanted. Now, if there's a challenge about whether or not the elected member should sit on that, then that'd be a question that we'd have to ask the monitoring officer, and we could come back to you on that point.
Yeah, I think so, because it all comes down to the term of reference at the end of the day. When you set up the terms of reference for who can be there, it might have been your behoved to say, well, if you are an elected member, it isn't appropriate necessarily to sit on that. I mean, we have got other organisations where we appoint councillors, as a council-appointed representative. We have other organisations where it's normally taken as read that if you're an elected representative, it's probably best not to sit on them. And I've got no issue whatsoever with the specific councillor, but it's the principle of having a councillor representing the council who is chair of the bid, and how that might be perceived for the other businesses, and how we might be able to engage going forward with those businesses to trust the council.
I mean, I would say, obviously, like as the officer has said, we can check that with the monitoring officer, but we have had a third-party consultancy, an outside consultancy alongside this, to manage the whole bid process. So I'm sure those questions were asked along the way. And as I came into administration, these chairs were already in place from the previous administration. So they have had a long time of establishing this group and ensuring the right people are in the right roles. But obviously, it is something we can happily take away and obviously double-check. But it has had a third-party involvement with the legalities and the processes from other areas as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on this item? No? Okay, so this is just to consider and comment, which we have done. So that brings that item to a close. Thank you, Councillor Power, if you want to slip off. Okay, so let's see if we can keep track. Right, item number 5, review of area committees. So this will be Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. And firstly, may I associate myself entirely with your remarks at the start of the meeting relating to Councillor David Harrison. I served as David's Vice Chair on Neighbourhoods and Public Spaces from 2020 to 2021. It was a privilege and an honour to have worked alongside David, and I fully appreciate all the support and guidance that he offered me during that period and beyond. My deepest thoughts and condolences are with David's family, as you quite rightly outlined earlier on tonight, and as you quite rightly also said, that the work of the area committees was a large part, the establishment was because of David, and it's a privilege to have been given the responsibility to have that under my cabinet portfolio, and I thank him for all the work that involved. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members, for inviting me along to be able to speak about the area committee tonight. One of the things that I'm incredibly proud of that we have worked towards over the last year, giving all members across all of our wards the opportunity to have a real stake in the borough with decision-making powers and funding attached to it to be able to influence decisions that go on within their wards, support particular community projects, support activities, support priorities that members have been elected to be able to put in place to serve their residents. I've always long believed that decisions should be made by residents and it should be made by members across all wards across the borough, and being able to influence decision-making processes within the areas that they serve is what the electorate puts into this position to be able to do. In May last year, we established 6 area committees representing different areas across the borough, made up of just those ward members that serve those particular geographic areas that they serve. There are budgets attached to them to be able to support particular priorities as outlined and is outlined within the report. Over the course of the last year, most wards have met at least on 2 occasions, or most area committees have met at least on 2 occasions, having public meetings or having meetings held in public, giving members of the public the opportunity to see the decisions that are being carried out by the elected representatives that they have put into this position, to be able to see the actions that they are carrying out on behalf of their residents. They have met, like I say, on at least 2 occasions with funding proposals considered at each meeting to be able to consider. In addition to the funding proposals for activities taking place within those wards, it is also given additional opportunity to be able to raise a spotlight on community groups that are serving and delivering activities within those wards. It's also given the opportunity for council officers to be able to come to each of the area committees and be able to present on particular items that members are concerned about, whether that's relating to Morgan Sindel and housing repairs, or whether that's the environment and waste service that is in place across the borough, or whether that's talking about the crunch service being able to resume and giving members the opportunity to shape where the crunch service takes place. The area committees have given that opportunity for those decisions to be carried out. Over the course of the last year, budgets have been allocated, as I said, to each of the different area committees, and over £252,000 has been spent across all of the 6 area committees. I would also like to point out at this point that any underspent or unused monies by each of the area committees will be rolled over into the next financial year as well. So any underspends that are in place will still be able to be utilised for particular projects that have been identified by members, and look forward to seeing those come to fruition. What we've also been able to see is 38 different charities and community groups being able to receive grant support funding through mechanisms that otherwise wouldn't be in place for them to be able to serve, and then also leverage funding with the grants that we're able to give, being able to identify and then be able to bring in additional support for those community groups as well. What I think the area committees have also enabled us to do is be able to strengthen relationships between councillors and the community. As I say, each community group in each of the different areas is able to bid in for sources of funding, for funding from their area committee. It's given members the opportunity to go out and visit different community projects. I've taken a number within my own ward of St Martin's, and I know other members sitting around the table tonight have also been out to visit particular community projects, enhancing their understanding of services that are delivered within each of those wards, and be able to come to area committee meetings, having more information about the projects that they're then able to support and advocate on behalf of at those meetings. It has also strengthened relationships within the council, I believe, as well, with each of the area committees having an appointed community development officer. And I'd like at this point to be able to pass my thanks on to Mr Taylor and Mr Toombs, who are here tonight, and our 3 community development officers for the fantastic work that they have done over the last year in being able to broker relationships with councillors that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily have had relationships with before, and being able to use their insight into relationships with community groups and members of the public to be able to shape some of the decisions that are being able to be carried out. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of the whole Commission tonight in passing on my thanks to our community development officers who are not here tonight for all of their work. And I'll ask Mr Taylor to be able to reiterate that message back to each of them following this meeting. I think it's also strengthened relationships within council and within parties as well. I've long believed that councillors of all parties have come into this building to be able to serve their residents, and it's an opportunity for us to be able to work together as well. Committee chairs meet on a monthly basis, being able to talk about particular projects that are coming up on the area committee agenda, being able to share particular projects that they're working on within their areas that might then benefit other area committees if they were so minded to take up those opportunities. And it is then also given an opportunity for cross-borough presentations to be delivered to the area committee chairs in being able to then take back to each of their different committees for decisions that they want to be able to put forward. So I'd like at this point also to reiterate my thanks to all of the area committee chairs for their service over the last year, for not just attending those monthly meetings, but also being able to coordinate activities that take place within their groups. And Chair, you and I have had a number of really constructive and positive conversations over the course of the year, and I'd like to thank you for your support as well. I think the area committees have been a really positive introduction to the council. We have identified areas for improvement and development that we would like to take forward into year 2 of the next municipal year. Those are outlined within the report. But at this point, I'd again like to reiterate my thanks to council officers, councillors, the community groups in which we serve, and all the beneficiaries of the projects for being able to come along this journey with us on area committees, and look forward to seeing the work develop. And I'll take any questions that members may have.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm conscious we've got a number of in fact most of the committee chairs here tonight. So I'm going to give those members an opportunity to say a few words. I would ask you, if possible, not to repeat what you've already said at full council, but if you've got sort of comments that pertain to the area committees in terms of the actual concept, or any comments about the contents of this report, then I'd appreciate hearing from you. Did anyone want to, Councillor Harrison, you're here tonight, so let's start with you, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as you say, I won't repeat what I said at full council the other week, but yeah, I think it has been a successful first year, and it's a brilliant initiative, and I also pay tribute to my namesake, Councillor Harrison, for coming up with this idea and making sure that it saw the light of day. But yeah, I think it has been a successful first year. I think there are a few. I think we'd all admit a few teething problems at the start while we all sort of figured out what could and couldn't come to these committees and sort of what we can and can't provide funding for. But I think that those issues have all been mostly cleared up now, and we're all sort of in our stride and sort of have a good idea of how they're going. So yeah. Other than that, I think the best use of these committees has been to be able to go out into the communities and speak to local charities and groups to sort of see what they're doing firsthand, and also see how we as a council can help them grow and improve. I went out to visit a few, including Langdon School Uniform Bank, which I was particularly impressed with. It's a really incredible operation that they've got there. It blew me away just how large it is and how many people they're helping. So yeah, they're one of the ones that we're looking to help more in the next year. So that'll be fantastic if we can do that. But yeah, overall it's been a brilliant initiative, and look forward to see what next year brings.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to go that way. So, Councillor Baggott.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, again, not adding to what was said at full council. And this is just a way, I suppose, of refining and improving on the area committee process that we have. I've got to thank Councillor Ferguson, because he certainly embraced it. I know he's always sort of running and sort of enthusiastic when he comes to the chair meetings. But maybe it's just me. I think that the format we have with the chair meetings don't necessarily lend themselves to a free flow of information and ideas as much as face-to-face. And I think that it would be fair to acknowledge that we rushed into the area committee setup when the administration took over, and that there are therefore gaps, as Councillor Harrison has said, in that process. And I think that the terms of reference, for instance, could be tightened up significantly. So there is because I have spoken to officers, and they have been unclear sometimes as to whether an area committee can fund something because it's a council responsibility or not. When it comes to dealing with some of the partners we have and stakeholders, whether or not that could be funded. And I think that we just need to tighten that up a little bit to make it more effective, so that we're not mismanaging expectations of the public. I think the other thing that would be helpful to the area committees is I'm sure that all areas have an expression of interest where the interesting parties put in. But the expression of interest could, I think, be tightened up a little bit as well, so that there is, for instance, a question that's asked within the process of what is a sign of success. How would, as a result of that funding being done, what does success look like, that organisation can say, we have actually spent the money wisely. And those sort of conversations, that tweaking, I think is better sitting around a table with chairman and saying, what about this, what about that, in the spirit of being collegiate and in the spirit of wanting to make it work. And that's the only observations I would add to sort of try and improve and strengthen the area committee process right now.
Thank you, Councillor. I must confess, are you all? You do? You don't? I'll leave you alone then. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chair. Well, again, I think Councillor Harrison has said more or less what I would say. I think the concept is a brilliant idea, and I think it's enabled us as councillors to get more involved with the community and the various projects around that are in our communities. I would also like to reiterate what Councillor Ferguson said about thanking the officers and the community officers. My community officer, Colleen Holly, has been extremely helpful to me, and I think I've learned a lot from her. I also think that there are some tweaks needed, how we go forward with the projects that are funded across the borough, which I think is going to be looked at, and also the criteria of some of the projects, so that we're all basically singing from the same hymn book. Can I just also say that in the Pitsea Area Committee, it's got a slight error, just so the record is straight. For the Friends of Northlands Park, it says £395. There was an amendment at our formal meeting, and an extra £100 was added to that. So Friends of Northlands have actually received £495, just so that everything is correct. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. We'll make sure that's amended and noted. Councillor Ansell.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to reiterate the comments of the previous speakers. I think that the area committee concept, certainly for this year, the first year, has been a success, and I think it's shown the best of Basildon in many ways. I think it has shown how strong the community and voluntary ethos is in the borough. And again, I think would like to pay tribute to certainly Jenny Squibb and David Toombs, that the officers that, without all of their hard work behind the scenes, the area committee couldn't have functioned. And also, I'd like to put special mention into the fellow members of the committee, and I think their enthusiasm with which they've taken to the task has been absolutely in the right manner for the area committee, and I think that's been shown in the good work that the committee has done, whether it's supporting Ladance Fantastic, Basildon Pitsea Cricket Club, Gateway Radio, Friends Community Centre, and Bar and Bus. I think there are some fantastic groups in the community that have deservedly been rewarded funding, and I think that funding will make a real difference to people across all sections of society in the borough. And I think, Chair, I won't go over too much old ground from the previous full council item and the speech that I made, but I do agree with Councillor Ferguson. I do think that the concept and the area committees have empowered ward councillors and residents over the investments in their own neighbourhoods. And I think it's been a vehicle for this council to do some good in the communities for the communities that we represent. I think it strengthened the bonds between the council and voluntary groups that play such an important role in stitching together the social fabric of our borough. I think one or two things to mention that I probably didn't mention in my speech before council was, I think it's absolutely right that that there's been an emphasis placed on sustainability and value for money. Obviously, it's taxpayers' money that we're dealing with, and I think the kind of the element within the expressions of interest form, and I think the keenness that officers have placed on making sure that it's kind of, I suppose, output driven, to make sure that there's value for money and that the money is spent properly and it supports the people that it's intended to do so. I think that Councillor Baggott makes a valid point. I think there's an element where there could be some tightening up to make sure that the expressions of interest that come through are the best that they can be, and really give kind of members the comfort of the quality of the submission, and also help also prompt community groups in terms of how they could best deploy the funding and resources that the council may be able to support them with. I think it's clear as well that, again, I think this is a concept that will continue to evolve as members, certainly myself as a chairman of the Basildon Area Committee, kind of gets used to their function. For example, I know that we're beginning to invite stakeholders and community groups to come and attend the meetings and speak, and I think that also gives those groups a fantastic platform to shout from the rooftops about all the good work that they do, and to increase their kind of standing in the borough, in that sense of how well they're known, and letting people know that they're there and the work that they do. I'd also say that I think one thing that I found is slightly tricky. I think obviously the splits between the Believe and Basildon Fund and the Priority Fund in terms of the way the funding's apportioned, that in some senses gives a degree of inflexibility. In terms of, you might have X amount of funding, but only a certain amount is for certain projects. There might be a lot of funding left over that you haven't been able to touch, but there's still been other groups for the other side of the funding which has been used. But yeah, there's still money there overall. Again, if that makes sense, I think there's one thing I'd change. I think greater bit of flexibility would be helpful in allowing us to make sure we maximise the use of the funding. But I'm really pleased to hear the cabinet member say that the money will be rolled over. Again, I think for me, one of the first things that ran through my mind, and so when the committees were created and all the way through, is to make sure that we spend taxpayers' money wisely. As again, there's no such thing as public money, only taxpayers' money. And again, pleased to see that that it's been used in that way. Money's being rolled over, and it's the whole process hasn't been treated as some kind of Brewster's Million scenario. So, but yeah, overall, I think cracking concept. I think the council's shown that it can be a success. I'm actually really proud of all the members across party, across all the committees, in the way that in the way that we've engaged with this new concept, and the good work that the council's being able to do for residents kind of across the borough and all sections of society. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I will obviously ask the cabinet member to come back on those specific points. Okay, the officer. So yeah. Yes, so did you want to come back on the points Councillor Ansell made just regarding the bid process and the way funds are allocated before we carry on? Or you can come back at the end overall, as long as you've got a note of it. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I mean, before it gets all a little, too self-congratulatory, we don't want to. We can't have that. I mean, the only thing the only note of caution, and I've said this throughout the year, is that there's a danger that these can end up being almost an extension of existing council funding packages, and I would urge all area committees to just be conscious of that. We've seen that happening potentially in Wickford over the past few weeks, and possibly going forward in Billericay, where the area committees are being asked to take responsibility for funding car parking. Now, you can argue, I'm not interested in having the political argument about whether that's the right decision or not, but all the money that, if we take money away from, to do things like that, or to fund the crunch, or whatever it might be, then we do reduce the amount of funds that we have available for area committees to fund those community initiatives. And I think that the primary focus, it says in the report, the funding is to be used to improve community cohesion and infrastructure. And I strongly believe that these committees are at their best when they are doing that. So in other words, they're funding, projects here and there that otherwise would not be picked up on by, potentially any other organisation. So I think that's where the opportunity lies, and that's where the success, let's be fair, it has been a successful project. The success has been. The only other question I had, I don't know if anyone's in a position to answer it, but why did Langdon spend so little compared to the other committees? I don't know if anyone can answer that. Or... Councillor Harrison, do you want to come back on that?
Thank you. I'm not sure I can answer it, but I'll speak to it. I mean, we spent what we felt was right. I'm glad, as Councillor Ferguson said, that it'll be rolled over to this year. We had 2 meetings, whereas some other committees had 3, so that may be a reason why ours was a little bit less. But no, we've supported some fantastic projects this year, and I look forward to supporting even more next year with our larger budget.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other queries, comments, questions on this item? In that case, I'll invite you, to wrap up, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair, and may I thank all the members of the Commission and all the chairs for their comments tonight. And I welcome all the support that everybody has shown for the area committees and its purpose and why we're continuing. The overall purpose of the area committees outlined earlier on was to be able to create the opportunity for ward members in their own individual areas to be able to make decisions that will benefit their particular residents with flexible funding pots that enable them to use informed decision-making processes. I really see the area committees as something that is able to evolve, their responsibilities developing, and really empowering ward councillors to be able to carry out decisions that members of the public have elected them to hear to be able to do in the first place. I'll just come to a few of the comments that were being made. The first round of meetings took place in October, and it was a 3-4 month period that it took to be able to get this set up, and it's learning by doing, as we've been showing as we've been going along. There will be ways that we want to develop this year on year, so I think that's really important. Around the impact of monitoring evaluation, something I have long believed. In fact, one of the first conversations I ever had with Mr Taylor on coming into Cabinet Post was looking at how we evaluate the services that we provide as a council within my portfolio area. That is work that is developing, and I'm really pleased that we've got that in our report tonight as point number 2 on ways that we're going to develop the area committees, is in looking at how we can monitor and evaluate the impact of the services that we're providing through it. Councillor Reid quite rightly referenced the additional £100 that was given to Friends of Northlands Park. I can assure you Friends of Northlands Park were not shortchanged, just the report for tonight was written before the decision was carried out, and it's a good job I've checked that you've got the £100 in the account to be able to spend on Friends of Northlands Park. So that will be corrected and carried out, and we'll amend the notes following tonight's meeting to see that. In reference to Councillor Ansell of the funding processes, I think, as I said at the outset of this summary, that we've learned and we've developed as the area committees has gone over the last year. There's things that we can make clearer on the funding pots. You only learn that by actually trying it out and seeing actually how it works and what changes you need to make in the first place. So I think one of the points that will be taken will be around how we can make the funding pots clearer in what they're trying to achieve. But clearly they've met the expectations of what they're looking for this year, and as I said earlier on, I can really see this evolving and developing in the future. So I thank all members for their comments tonight, and look forward to working with all chairs going into the next year of the programme.
Thank you, Councillor. That concludes that item. So I move on then, or do we have to? It's just for noting, so we noted. Okay, in that case we move on to item 7, the annual safeguarding review.
Thank you, Chair. In the absence of Councillor McGeorge, I'm presenting you the annual safeguarding report, which we're returning following a previous scrutiny meeting in December. Within the previous report, there were some discrepancies with the number of child safeguarding referral figures made for those within the borough, and we were asked to review and bring back at a later date. The child referral figures have since been reviewed, and those enclosed in the report are accurate, with 79 child referrals being made in 23-24. The previously reported figure was 93, with 14 referrals confirmed to have been made for children outside of the borough and were therefore not included within the report. Child referrals have averaged at 47 per year over the same 4-year period. However, there has been a marked increase in the number of referrals made in 23-24, rising from 34 in 22-23 to 79 this year. The spike seen in this year's data is because of the introduction of safeguarding champions within each service area and a more robust auditing process. This has resulted in the safeguarding team being provided with more accurate reporting data, which is reflective of all the referrals being made across the organisation. Early analysis shows that the statistics for 24-25 appear to be on par with the 23-24 data, and therefore we are confident the current level of child referrals is more accurate than previous years, were likely to be inaccurate as opposed to levels of concerns or vulnerabilities increasing. The main reason for child referrals are concerns relating to domestic abuse and neglect, which make up for the majority of referrals made. This is surmised from the referral information provided, as the child referral form does not request input of an abuse type as it does for adults. The content of the remaining report remains largely unchanged, with the exception of the data of the 14 outside the borough referrals being removed from the report. During 23-24, a total of 152 referrals were made for children and adults by the council officers. This is the highest amount since recording began by the safeguarding team in 2021. Within the report, at last scrutiny there was some concerns raised about our contractor, and we've done some significant work with Morgan Sindall around safeguarding. So since the Overview and Scrutiny Committee in December, measures have been put in place to ensure there are clear safeguarding processes and procedures with our main contractor, Morgan Sindall Property Services. As the eyes and ears of our borough, the operatives are in a unique position to be able to identify safeguarding concerns and make appropriate referrals. A meeting was held with Morgan Sindall in December where current safeguarding practices and training were discussed. Morgan Sindall confirmed training is delivered in a number of ways, including at the start of employment as part of the induction, ongoing toolbox talks and SWIPS training. They also advised that a bespoke e-learning package has been developed to ensure it's meaningful for those operatives coming through their services. We were satisfied with the training being offered to staff regarding basic safeguarding awareness, and we will support the ongoing learning and development of the e-package where required. Training will also be offered to all managers within the service to ensure they have an enhanced understanding of safeguarding to support their service going forwards. Morgan Sindall have shared their safeguarding policies and procedures which have been reviewed by the Council's Safeguarding Policy Officer. There were some areas of improvement required, and we'll be working with their safeguarding champions to review and update their policy. Through discussions, it was recognised that clearer processes were needed in terms of recording referrals made by Morgan Sindall. As through current process, it was unclear whether referrals were being included within Basel and Council statistics as they were being managed within the housing teams. We are currently working to devise a new process whereby referrals made by Morgan Sindall will be recorded by the repairs team and collected as part of their monthly data. This will ensure we have accurate records of the number of referrals being made. We understand the need for the safeguarding reports to be accurate to ensure they can be scrutinised meaningfully, and although the figures have since been rectified, we recognise the benefit of introducing more robust reporting arrangements. Therefore, we've been working to develop a new IT system to record referrals using Microsoft Dynamics. The system will require members of staff to complete the relevant safeguarding referral form using an internal link, which referrals being reviewed by the safeguarding team prior to being submitted to Essex County Council. It is hoped this will improve the accuracy of internal referrals and will not be as reliant on officers remembering to send safe copies of referrals to the safeguarding team.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions on this item from the Commission? Okay. I've got a few questions, if I may. Just looking at the fifth paragraph, and it says, we are confident that the current level of children's referrals is more accurate. Previous years were likely to be inaccurate, as opposed to levels of concerns or vulnerabilities increasing. Obviously, that phrase there, likely to be inaccurate, is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because essentially what we're saying there is that we have missed probably around about 55 referrals that have been picked up on the new system, which is great, and I'm pleased that it's been picked up. But can you tell me, is there any way, and indeed has it been discussed or looked at, that the data from the year previous 22-23 could be reviewed to see if there's any potential cases that have been missed that would have been picked up on if they were looked at under the new criteria?
So we wouldn't be able to identify that because cases are picked up in people's day-to-day operational roles. So that's people with eyes and ears in services, working day-to-day on the ground. Often concerns can be very small to very large concerns. I think it is the smaller concerns that are now being picked up. So, for example, if a repairs operative was to go into a property with a large indent in a door, that can be indicative of domestic abuse. It could be children play fighting, but also we need to understand that those small indicators can lead to more serious safeguarding referrals. So it is making sure that everything is being appropriately reported, and by having those champions within services, we can ensure that they've got the robust knowledge and training to have those conversations through their team meetings, through their one-to-ones, to ensure that even very small concerns can be picked up and that we can make appropriate referrals where appropriate.
Thank you for that answer. Just the following paragraph, it mentions, and I'm guessing this has been done, but I just wanted to confirm it. 14 of the children were outside of the borough. What was the process to ensure that was handed over to the correct authority?
Yep, so those would have been dealt with by Essex Social Care, so all the referrals, regardless of where they come from, go through their team.
Thank you very much. And one final question for me, just so you mentioned Morgan Stanley. Do you know how many referrals we've had via them so far under the new process?
Not yet. We're working through the analysis for this year's data, so we will look at that. These are kind of newer ones, so we're hoping to move forward from this year's reporting with regards to their processes.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer.
Hi there, thanks for that. I just wondered if you could reassure us that there is, the current system does provide a whole picture of the child. So you might get referrals from different areas, but so that we can build a picture to see the whole child, as it were.
So that's the job of Essex County Council, and that's why we make those safeguarding referrals, because we're not yet a unitary authority. We don't have social services provision within this council, so it's our job to all of our services to report in, and they would have the holistic view of the child.
And has Essex County Council passed its Ofsted yet?
They've got an outstanding children's service. No. Yeah.
Councillor Bagot.
Am I right? It's just a confirmation, really, I guess, that we provide training, or training is provided for our contractors, for our staff, on all the sort of things that they should look for, or the things to be aware of.
Yes, so we review their training programme to ensure it meets the, for all of our operatives in our council, we have a basic level of safeguarding training, and we ensure that the same points are met for their training as we would expect for our officers.
So councillors also come into contact with residents and are in the same position. Why don't councillors get that training?
Councillors are provided with the e-learning training for children's safeguarding. It's part of the councillor training programme.
And is it recorded, those councillors that have had that training and done it?
It'd be on the online system.
Because I'll be honest, I'm going to confess here, I can't remember having done it. That's why I'm asking.
We can get the reports run off and we can send round, Emma, to everyone.
I know that it's done as an induction, but for councillors that have been here longer than a year or 2 years, they may have slipped through the cracks. I just don't ever recall.
It's 3 yearly training programme, so we can get the reports run off. But yeah, it's to be updated every 3 years.
Not that I want to keep doing training or anything, but it's just, I think this sort of stuff is important, and we should all be aware and cognisant of the things that you need to look for.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor?
2 idiots on the road for nuddies.
Oh, right. Okay, right. Well, on that note then, unless there's any further questions or comments, I shall... What have we got to do with this one? Note it?
Just noting, yeah.
Just for noting, so that is duly noted. Right, and we'll move on then to the final item. Is that right? Have I got that right? I kept on top of it all the way through. Good gracious me. Yep, so that's the work programme. So is there anything to be added to the work programme? No, it's the end of the municipal year anyway, so I think we'll probably leave it for the next commission, whoever is on that to set their own work programme. Well, look, just as we conclude. Oh, sorry, Councillor Bagot, did you have a comment?
As you just said, quite rightfully, Chairman, we're coming to the end of the municipal year. Now, 2 task and finish groups were commissioned by the Overview and Scrutiny Commission. Not one of them has really got itself up and running yet. I have emailed officers asking what the reason for the delay is, and to be honest, I was not satisfied with the answer I was given for why the SEMPRA review has not yet been initiated. Can we make sure that those task and finish groups are put on the working programme for next year, so that you don't get a new Scrutiny Commission comes in and then they're just brushed under the carpet and ignored? Because both of those were quite important task and finish groups.
Yes, I think that's sensible. As it's just been pointed out, the other one is meeting for the first time on Thursday. But you're absolutely right; it won't have reached its conclusions before the end of the municipal year. So it is important that we keep a track of those. So yes, thank you for that. We will, make sure that's added on, please. Any other comments regarding the work programme? No. Okay. Right. Well, as I say, in that case, this does bring us to the end of this municipal year. clearly next year we will have someone else chairing this commission. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for all of your input over the past 12 months and all of your support as well. All of the officers who have attended and answered our questions, and indeed the cabinet members who've come along as well. As I said at full council, I think it's useful to have the cabinet members here with us in the room when we're asking those questions. So thank you to everyone for all of your contribution, and for one final time I think it's worth saying thank you to Councillor David Harrison for his contribution and his chairing of the meetings over the past 12 months as well. And with that, I shall bring this meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission